City on a Hill Kids Church Online. I'm Lola.
And I'm Jimmy. Today we're talking about praying.
And also about a man named Samuel.
But that will be after a time of worship.
Prayer is like a telephone for us to talk to Jesus. Prayer is like a telephone for us to talk to God. Prayer is like a telephone for us to talk to Jesus. Pick it up and use it every day. We can shout out loud. We can whisper softly. We can make no noise at all, but you'll always hear our call. It's like a telephone for us to talk to Jesus. It's like a telephone for us to talk to God. It's like a telephone for us to talk to Jesus. Pick it up and use it every day. We can shout out loud. We can whisper softly. We can make no noise at all, but you'll always hear our call. It's like a for us to talk to Jesus. It's like a for us to talk to God. It's like a for us to talk to Jesus. Pick it up and use it every day. We can shout out loud. We can whisper softly. We can make no noise at all, but they'll always hear our call. It's like a for us to talk to. It's like a for us to talk to. It's like a for us to talk to. Pick it up and use it every day. Pick it up and use it every day. Pick it up and use it every day.
So, we're talking about praying. We said that praying is having a conversation with God. When having a conversation, it's not one person doing all the talking or all the listening. It's talking and listening. God listens to us when we speak all the time. So I think it's just polite, good manners for us to listen to him when he speaks to us. Can you imagine the one who created the whole wide world, the universe, the one who has power over everything? He is in charge of everything. He wants us to speak to him. He wants us to know him and understand him, just like he knows and understands each one of us. That's awesome. I think so anyway. The Bible says that we should pray always. Can you think of times when you should pray? I'll give you some examples. Before you have a meal. Sometimes some people pray even after having a meal. Before bed. When you wake up in the morning. Think of other times you can pray all the time. And where can you pray? You can pray anywhere. At home, in a car, on the bus, at school, in church, absolutely anywhere. You can pray out loud with your voice, or you can pray in your head. You can make your prayer as short as you want or as long as you want. The important thing is that we talk to God and listen to what he has to say too. I'm now going to tell you a story about somebody in the Bible whose name was Samuel. Here we go. Now, there was a lady in the Bible named Hannah. She had no children, and she really, really, really wanted to have a child. So she asked God, and she asked him over and over again. And she made an interesting promise. She told God that if God gives her a child, that she was going to give the child back to God. Can you imagine you asking one of the grown-ups in your house for something, and when that grown-up gives it to you, then you give it back? Anyway, that's what Hannah did. God answered her prayer, and she had a son, and she named him Samuel. Samuel means God has heard. She didn't forget her promise. When Samuel was grown up a little bit, she sent Samuel off to the high priest at the time, whose name was Eli, so as to help the high priest in serving God. Now, one day, when Samuel was still a boy, he was sleeping and was woken up at night by someone calling his name. So he got up and thought it was Eli that was calling him, and went to Eli and said, "Here I am. You called?" And Eli said, "I didn't call you. Go back and lie down." So Samuel went back and lay down. Then he was woken up again. Someone called his name. He thought it was Eli. He went to Eli and said, "Here I am. You called?" And Eli said, "I didn't call you. Go back and lie down." And it happened a third time. Someone called Samuel's name. He got up, thinking it was Eli, went to Eli and said, "Here I am. You called?" Eli thought, this must be God calling. So he told Samuel, "Next time you hear someone call, say, 'Speak, Lord, I'm listening.'" And of course, that's exactly what happened. Samuel was called again, and he did as Eli had said, because it was God calling. And God spoke to Samuel again and again and again. And Samuel listened and obeyed everything that God told him. He grew up to be a prophet. A prophet is someone who hears from God and shares God's message with others. There are lots of stories in the Bible about Samuel. You get one of the grown-ups in your house to read some of the stories in the Bible about Samuel. But before I go, I would like to tell you one more thing about Samuel. The children of Israel decided that they wanted to have a king rule over them, just like the people in the countries around them had a king ruling over them. And Samuel, he was a bit worried because he wasn't sure that this is what God wanted for his people. And so he decided to ask God, and God said, "Don't worry, tomorrow I will send a man to you from the tribe of Benjamin. I have picked him to be the king." And that's what happened. The next day, a man came to Samuel. He was big and strong and tall. And God told Samuel, "This is the man that I have picked to be king. His name is Saul." So Samuel anointed Saul with oil as a sign showing that Saul had been chosen to be the king of Israel. But Saul was rather selfish, and he made a lot of bad and wrong choices. So God led Samuel to somebody else, a shepherd boy, the youngest son of Jesse, whose name can you guess? Was David. And David was anointed, that's oil poured over him, and that was a sign that David had been chosen to be king of Israel. And David was the greatest king that Israel had ever had for a long time, until a boy named Jesus was born. Jesus taught people how to hear from God and to obey him. So everybody can hear from God. Children, just like when Samuel was a child, grown-ups, old people, young people, and you can hear from him at any time. When you're asleep, when you're reading the Bible or you're having the Bible read to you, when you are looking at God's creation, God speaks to you at any time and in different ways. And that's the end of the story.
Hi kids, how are you doing? Did you have a good week? Did you remember to take time to listen to God? I hope you did. And what did God say to you? I know a few people who have heard God speak to them this week, so that's really exciting. So today, Ivy was talking all about the story of Samuel, which I love. Thank you, Ivy. And also, she was talking about how we can just pray all the time. It says in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, pray continually. So Ivy suggested, we could pray when we get in the car, or when we're in school, or when we eat. And these little prayers through the day, just, oh, God, help me here, or, oh, thank you for that, God, or, oh, help me know what to do. That's really great. It helps develop our relationship with God when we just chat with him all the time like that. Now, I was thinking, how can we remember to pray all through the day? Because once we've formed the habit, it's easy, but it's remembering to do it. So I was thinking, well, what else do we have with us all day? And the first thing I thought of was our pants. I thought, oh, we could make prayer pants. But I decided that was a bit embarrassing for City on a Hill Kids Online. But if you wanted to, you could make some prayer pants. You could sew something into your pants to remind you to pray. But then I thought, let's do something a little simpler. So I came up, because I like it when it rhymes, with this slogan, pray all day. And that basically says the same thing, doesn't it, as pray continually. And you can see I've just made this picture with a clock and the words pray all day. But that's a bit big to carry around with you. And you don't just want to put it up in your room, because you're not in your room most of the day, are you? You need it with you. So then I thought, well, we could make a tiny one like this, can you see? And one like that, I've got one here. I've folded it up. I have put a pin through it. Oops. And then, you could just pin it on. I could pin it onto my top. And at this time of year, I usually wear a jumper, so nobody would see it. Or you could just slip it into your pocket, or you could put it into your shoe and you could walk around with it in your foot all day. So there's all kinds of places that you could have that with you to help you remember to pray all day. So I'm going to show you how to make a big one, because it'll be much easier to see, but it's exactly the same if you want to make a tiny one. So first you need something round to draw round to make your clock. So I've got a sellotape for the big one, or a penny for the little one. And then choose your colours, something nice and bright. And first you just draw around your circle to make your clock shape. And in this one, I then went round it again to make it a bit thicker, because I thought that looked good. So you can do that if you want to. Then, to make the places where the different hours are on your clock, take another colour of pen and start by doing a little dip at the top, at the bottom, at the left, and at the right. So you've got 4 like that. And then you just need to fit in 2 equally spaced between each dot. And make sure that they all are about the same distance away from the edge of your circle. And it will look like that. And if you want to, you can put the numbers right, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, to make the different hours. But it looks fine like that. And if you're doing the tiny one, I don't think you'll have space to do the numbers. So then in the very middle, you need to do around a circle, because this is what your clock hands will come off. And then I think it looks good if you make the long hand of the clock point up to the top, like the hour that it's pointing to, you know, something o'clock. And the way I've done it is I've just done a line with a little arrow on the top, and you can see I've done it with the tiny one. If you're doing the tiny one, you will need quite a thin pen. So that's your long hand, and then your other hand needs to be a bit shorter. Well, that's the hour hand on a clock, and you can have it pointing to any number you want, because we're going to pray all day. So anytime. I've made mine, 5 o'clock. There we go. And then you need to write your words. So the word pray has 4 letters, so to kind of get it evenly spaced over the top, you need 2 kind of more on this side and 2 on that side. So p, r, a, yeah. And then for all day, each word has 3 letters, so you have all on this side and day on that side, and it comes out nice and even. So just choose what colour you want. I think I'm going to use my purple again. P, r, a, yeah, a, l, d, a, yeah. Pray all day. So there you have it. Pray all day. And as I say, you can put that wherever you want. That will remind you. I'll slip this one into my pocket, I think. And every time I put my hand in my pocket, I'll think, oh, remind me to pray. God, thank you that you're with me. Thank you that you're here right now. Help me in the next hour, and I'll pray again soon. So there you go. So why don't you try to pray all day this week? And I'll see you again soon. Bye for now, kids.
Jamie, before you heard this story, what did you understand about praying?
I thought that was only me talking. I didn't know God spoke back.
Yes, he does. It's just like talking and listening to your friends and family, but you're doing it with God. That's what we call praying.
Lola, I enjoyed that story about Samuel.
So did I. Hannah couldn't have any kids, but God blessed her with a baby boy and she named him Samuel.
Samuel was a little boy when God first spoke to him.
Yes, God speaks to children and adults, and he also speaks to you anywhere and everywhere. Maybe when you're reading your Bible, when you're at school, when you're eating your food, when you're in the shower, even when you're sleeping, he could give you dreams. That's it for this week.
Till next time.
Bye!